The silence that followed the blackout was louder than the screams. In the Dolda Grand Ballroom, the red light from the sky turned the champagne in the glasses into something that looked like stagnant blood. I stood perfectly still. Julian Vane, the man who had spent 30 years stepping on my family's neck to reach the clouds, was now vibrating with a terror so pure it smelled of copper. He really looked at me for the first time since 1995. He saw the maid's uniform I wore as a shroud. He saw the calluses on my hands that had scrubbed his floors while he grew fat on my father's stolen dividends. I didn't look away. I wanted to drink in the moment his soul realized that the help had just dismantled his godhood. Ain tried to speak, his voice a pathetic rasp. "Elena, you don't understand what you've done." I stepped closer, the heels of my sensible service shoes clicking like a firing squad on the marble. "I understand exactly what I've done, Julian. I've balanced the ledger." I leaned in, whispering so only he could hear. "Do you remember the night you stood in my father's study? He was coughing blood, begging you to think of the bank's employees, and you laughed. You told him that men of vision don't care about the ants beneath them." I felt a surge of vindictive heat. "Well, Julian, this ant just pulled the wings off your vision. You didn't just frame a man. You murdered a legacy and danced on the grave of a genius. My father died in a cold ward with no name because of your forgery. Today, you die in a room full of people who finally see you for the thief you are." Lucas's voice crackled in my ear, panicked and sharp. "Grandmother, we have to move. The Aegis core isn't just resetting, it's consuming." Outside, the red sky pulsed again. A low-frequency hum began to vibrate through the very bones of the building. Vane's associates, men who had ignored my father's pleas for years, were now clawing at the locked glass doors. They were the architects of this new world, and now they were trapped in its first cage. I watched Marcus, the lead security guard, approach Vane, not to protect him, but to demand answers. When Vane couldn't give them, Marcus did something I had dreamed of for 3 decades. He stripped Vane of his gold watch and pushed the Titan to the floor. Vane fell onto the broken glass of the trays I had dropped earlier. The blood on the floor matched the sky. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. We fled the hotel as the red pulse began to liquefy the digital screens. In the car, Lucas was frantic, showing me the data on his tablet. The Project Midnight signal wasn't just a hack. It was a beacon. My father had built Aegis as a cage to trap a signal coming from the deep black, a signal he called the guest. Vane had tried to turn that cage into a battery. "Grandmother," Lucas whispered, his face pale in the crimson light. "The Aegis network is now a bridge. Whatever was supposed to stay out there, it's using the bank's satellites to descend." I looked back at the hotel. It was a silhouette against a sky that looked like an open wound. I had my revenge. Vane was ruined, his name a curse, his body broken. But as the first of the red threads began to descend from the clouds toward the city's heart, I realized my father's warning wasn't about money or power. I had burned down the world to watch one man crawl. And as the screams started across Zurich, I realized that Julian Vane wasn't the monster. He was just the fool who let the real monster in. And I was the one who handed him the key.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for more.